Why does the long-term success of you being a pastor depend on the discipleship that you offer in your church? Why are those two things connected to each other? Well, that's what I want to talk about in today's episode. Welcome to the Pastor's Growing Church Community Podcast. So glad that you're here with me. So glad that you're joining me wherever you are in the world and whatever you're doing. We have listeners all over the world, which is surprising to me, but I love it. I love having listeners all over the world tuning in, checking out what we're doing here at Pastor's Growing Church Community, and finding out how to grow their churches and how to reach people and make an impact in their corner of the world every day. And so thank you again so much for being here. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that we make sure that our content here at Pastors Growing Church gets to you. And it also helps the content get to others who are all over the world looking to grow their church, looking to reach people and make an impact for Jesus. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel right there. Or if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, go ahead and subscribe there to the podcast to make sure that you don't miss a single episode. So what we're talking about today is why discipleship is important. Discipleship across the board is the key to what it means to be a local church. It's key to what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. It's foundational to what it means to be a Christian. And so I think it's important that we talk about why discipleship is important. In previous episode, we talk about what discipleship is. And so now that we understand what it is, let's talk about why it's important to you as a pastor, to the church that you lead, and to the people that are in your congregation. So first, let's talk about why is it important to the people in your congregation. And let's begin with that Jesus commanded it. Number one, Jesus commanded it. We see that in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus gives his great commission. He commands us to go and make disciples. And at the very end of the day, that is the number one thing that we should be doing. If you and I, if we say, raise our hands and say, "Hi, I'm a pastor, I'm leading a church, I'm leading a congregation, I'm leading a small group, I'm leading a community of people," whatever it is you are leading, if you're pastoring those people, your number one objective is to disciple those people into a relationship with Jesus. And so Jesus commanded us to it, so we should be about it. It's not about growing churches. I know here we talk about the Pastor's Growing Church Community and grow your church, and that's all important. But what we're talking about is not numerical growth. So your church can be this mega church that's, got this huge building and all this. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about discipleship, growing people, taking them deeper into their relationship with Jesus and helping them grow to their full potential in their relationship with him as a follower of him, as a disciple of him. So the number one reason we should be discipling and why it's important for our people is that Jesus commanded us to do it for them. And so we should be discipling people every day. Everything we do in ministry should be focused on that one objective. And how do we disciple people for Jesus? So that's the number one. The second reason is that it makes the Bible accessible. The number one reason people come to your church is to learn the Bible across the board. When we look at the data, people go to church not primarily so that they can be in relationships with others, not so that their kids can grow up in a place where they can learn good morals. That's not the number one reason. The number one reason why people go to church is because they want to learn about the Bible. They want to learn about God. They want to dive into scriptures. They want to understand what the scriptures are saying, not just to them, but in general, what does the Bible say? And so that's the number one reason they come to your church. And so the reason we need to make sure that we are having solid discipleship, a good discipleship experience in our church, is because that's what people are looking for. They're coming into your doors and they're walking through and they're sitting in your sanctuary. And yes, they want to hear a good sermon. And yes, they want to have small groups and a place they connect and a place for their kids to connect. They want all of those things. But if they're not getting a good steady diet and understanding of what the scriptures are, then they will not stay long term. They're looking to understand scripture. And so that's one of the primary reasons that we need to make sure that we are giving them a good discipleship experience. And then the number three reason why people need discipleship is because it leads to spiritual maturity. When people enter into a relationship with Jesus, there are lots of motivating factors of why they enter. Maybe it's just an emotional moment. Maybe they're going through difficulty, whatever. But when they come into that relationship with Jesus, they want it to go to its fullest potential. They want to grow. And they can't do that if they don't understand the Bible. If they don't know the scriptures, they don't understand what the passages are saying. If they don't understand the context that they're reading it in, if they don't understand how the whole Bible tells one story and how it all flows together, if they don't understand that, then they can't reach their full potential in Jesus. They can't grow to be the Christian, to be the follower of Jesus, the disciple they've been called to, because they don't fully understand the Bible itself. And so we have to do discipleship so that people can reach their full potential spiritually as a follower of Him. So those are the three reasons why people need discipleship. Now, I want to talk about the three reasons your church needs a discipleship. And I'm talking beyond the people. So we're talking about individuals first, but now let's talk about why your church, why the organization, why your faith community needs discipleship as a part of its experience when people come to your church. Why does your church need it? Well, the number one reason is because it develops volunteers. You and I both know as pastors, your church, my church, our ministries cannot fully function without volunteers. One of the biggest challenges of being in ministry is there's always a shortage of volunteers. We never have enough people in the kids area. We never have enough people in the nursery. We never have enough people leading small groups. Whatever the case may be, we never have enough volunteers. And so when we offer discipleship, and discipleship is a part of our experience at church, well, then it creates volunteers. It creates a heart after Jesus. It creates a heart to serve. It creates this need and this desire in people that they want to be a part of what God is doing. They want to be a part of ministering to others and sharing with others. They want to be a part. And so we need to provide discipleship throughout our experience at church so that volunteers are developed and there's a heart to serve and there's a heart and a desire to be a part of what God is doing in the local church, in your local church. And the second reason is because it creates unity. If you've ever been in a church, whether it's visiting or a part of a church that is in disunity, that is strife and struggle and frustration and anger and all of those things, if you've ever been a part of a church like that, you know how it feels, how much of a struggle that is. And if you're a guest and you walk into a church like that, you feel it immediately. And so when you offer discipleship, solid discipleship that brings people in unity with Christ, in unity with the scriptures, in unity with one another, you can feel that. You can feel it throughout the building. You can feel it on a Sunday morning. You can feel it in the small group setting. You can feel when people are unified and in one accord. That's why scripture even points to unity as such an important part of the early churches, because they were all in one accord and there was unity in this, in their desire and their pursuit of Christ. And so that's the number two reason why we need to have discipleship in our churches, is because it unifies our congregations. And then the third reason is because it equips for evangelism. Now, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that I'm huge on discipleship. In fact, I would argue that we forsook discipleship for many, many years. In place, we put evangelism, and we put so much focus on getting people saved and getting them to churches and getting them to big events and raising their hands and committing their lives to Jesus. And then we failed to disciple them well. But at the same time, evangelism and discipleship are one and the same. They're two parts of the same process. Yes, we need to evangelize people, and yes, we need to disciple them. We can't do one without the other. And if we're discipling people all the time, but we're never equipping people for evangelism, well, then how are people going to find their way through church, into your church doors? Sure, Google can help you, but Google isn't evangelistic. Google is just going to market for you. You need your people who have a heart for evangelism. You need people who are hungry after the things of God. You need people who are broken over the needs in their community and broken over their needs in their neighbor's life. And you need people who are broken and have a heart like Jesus to reach out and evangelize and to share their faith and share their testimony and share what God's doing. That's what you need. And discipleship does that, because when people are moving through a discipleship experience, they are learning what it means to evangelize. Even if we don't even use that word, we see it throughout scripture. We see it all through the gospels, and we see it in Acts, and we see it all throughout, that there is this evangelistic nature inside of God that is then instilled in us through discipleship, that we're then hungry to go reach others. And so the third reason why your church needs discipleship is because It creates evangelists in your church who are willing to share their testimony, share the good news of Christ, and bring people into relationship with Jesus. And then the final category is, why do we need discipleship as pastors? Why do you and I need discipleship as a part of our church environment, church community, a part of our church growth strategy? The number one reason why we need discipleship in our churches as pastors is because it's how we find true fulfillment in ministry. There are lots of things that I do in ministry. I've been in ministry 25 years. I've been in all kinds of different roles in ministry and churches. There are lots of things that I do in ministry that are task oriented and project oriented and event oriented and systems oriented. I do lots of things. But there is nothing more fulfilling than walking somebody through a discipleship experience and watching them grow in their relationship with Jesus, watching them discover Him and discover themselves. There is nothing more fulfilling than watching a young person find Jesus in their teenage years and go into ministry in their adult years, or turn into a business person who is reaching their community or building a business with a Christ-centered heart. There is nothing like watching somebody go through a discipleship experience and see their life really fully changed and fulfilled and completely impacted because of their discipleship experience and their growth in Jesus. So, the number one reason why you and I need discipleship in our church experience is because it brings fulfillment to you and I as pastors. There's nothing more fulfilling for us to do than to disciple somebody through a relationship or into a deeper relationship with Jesus. The second reason is because it raises new leaders. Now, this is beyond volunteers. Your church needs volunteers, and on some level, you need volunteers. But what you really need as a pastor is you need leaders. You need others who are going to help manage all of the volunteers, who are going to help make decisions. You need leaders. You can't just have anybody step into leadership. You can't just have anybody walk alongside you in ministry, partially because they don't always understand what you're going through. They don't understand the weight that you carry. They don't understand the perspective that you have as a pastor. They don't always understand that. But when you provide discipleship and people are going through a discipleship experience and they're understanding what it means to lead from a biblical perspective, and they understand how to use their gifts and talents as leaders to apply it to the church and the community and the faith community that you serve, when you do that, then you have leaders that are around you who are willing to walk that path with you, who are willing to go with you, who are willing to help make the tough decisions, who are willing to see things that you can't see, give you perspective and insight that you're unable to see, or give you an understanding of what's going on in the farther reaches of your church if you can't be a part of everybody's life. You need leaders around you, and discipleship is what creates that pathway. It creates an opportunity for people to grow in their relationship with Jesus, discover what their leadership looks like as a follower of Jesus, and then apply that leadership in your church community and help you lead your faith community into whatever future and whatever calling and whatever mission God has given you. And then the third reason is right alongside that is, when you have leaders, then you're able to have people that share the weight of ministry. So the number three reason is the weight of ministry is distributed to others and not just you. We talk about a lot here. We want to grow churches. Yes, that's super important. But we also want to make sure that you, as a pastor, last a long time in ministry, that you can see your calling fulfilled completely, that you're not burning out, that you're not stressed and overwhelmed. We don't want you as a pastor, I don't want you as a pastor to be anxious about everything and stressed about everything and unable to make decisions and unable to have time with your family and unable to have a hobby and have things to do and travel and do all the things that you want. That's not what I want for you. But that means that you need to have others who can carry the weight of your ministry, carry the weight of the church. You and I were not called to carry it all. We were called to lead and to pastor and to serve so that others can carry the weight of the ministry with us. When you have a discipleship experience, then you create a pathway for people to grow in their leadership, so you then can hand the weight off to others in your church and they can carry it with you. Ministry is a team sport. You shouldn't be doing it alone. I shouldn't be doing it alone. We should never be doing these things alone. It's a team sport, and we have to make sure that we're spending the time that we need and focusing our attention to make sure that we're not carrying it alone, so that we can last a long time. We can impact more lives. We can grow our churches. We can serve our communities. We can do the things that are necessary to make an impact wherever God has placed us. And so those are the primary reasons in those three areas that we need discipleship. You need discipleship. I need discipleship. We need discipleship in our church experience. It's what people are looking for. It's what our churches need and what you and I need as pastors. And so if you're looking at your discipleship experience, and maybe you only do Sunday morning sermons and that's it, or maybe you have a small group system, but it's not really strong discipleship. It's, maybe it's more social gathering. It's getting people together, but they're not really growing in their deep understanding and relationship with Jesus. They don't understand scripture at the level that you think that they should. Then I would encourage you to start thinking about how can you move people into a discipleship experience that's taking them deeper into the word, that's helping them understand the biblical truths, and even understanding the theology that they claim to believe. Help them by taking them through a discipleship experience that's going to teach them, show them, and give them access to Jesus in a way that maybe they never have. Because you and I both know that if we have a surface level faith and a surface level relationship with Jesus, there is a whole lot we're missing out. And I don't want your congregation. I don't want my congregation. I don't want the people that I lead. I don't want them to struggle in their relationship with Jesus. I want them to grow and to flourish. And I want to be able to do that through a discipleship experience because I can't do it all on my own. I'm not that smart. I'm not that talented. And quite honestly, I'm just not Jesus. But when I put them into the scriptures and I teach them what I can from the scriptures, then Jesus takes over and teaches them everything they need, teaches them the insights and the truths that we find in scripture, and they grow in their relationship with Jesus. So I want to encourage you. Take time, look at your discipleship system, and start asking the questions. How can we make this better? How can we take people deeper? And how can they grow in their relationship with Jesus through the discipleship experience that we are offering them as a part of our church? All right. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.